Hi guys! I've had a lot of people ask me about dip powder nails, so I'm going to show you how I do mine. Thank you guys for watching, and this is my first video, so please bear with me. If you hear my son in the background, it's because I'm trying to do this while he's playing, but I hope you all enjoy. So this is my cuticle pusher. I got it from Sally's and it's Revlon. It is metal. So what you'll want to do is push all of your cuticles back and make sure they are trimmed and no excess there, because the dip powder will raise up whenever you put it on top of your cuticles. So you want to do each and every individual finger to make sure it's done really well. And then I buff the top of my fingernails, that way that the dip polish will stick really good. You don't want to be too rough on them. This is Kiss nail glue, and you want to put it on each nail. What I done there was I cut the bottom of tips off, and then filed them to fit my fingernails. You can buy them that is already fit to your fingernails, but I had already had these and wanted to use the coffin shape, so I just trimmed and done what I could with it. You want to make sure they're stuck on there really good, because if not, it will cause the dip powder to raise as well. If you bump it into anything or have any pressure on it at all, it will make it pop up. And I roughened my nails because that helps it stick. Oops, I dropped it there. So that helps it stick to your fingernail. That way it gives some texture and it will stick really good. So I had to trim this one a little bit because the thumbnail was still a little too long, and I wanted them all to be the same length, so I had to trim it up. And with the false tip fingernails, you can file them and everything, because I had to file the tips of them because they had like little places where they tore them off of the perforated plastic. So this does take a little bit of time. It's definitely a lot more, gosh, I can't talk today, guys. It's definitely a lot more lengthy than just putting the color street on top of your nails. But I do like a thicker nail, and I do like the tips and stuff and the looks of it better. My nails are very brittle, so what I do is use the dip powder, that way my nails doesn't break off and stuff. The color street does protect those a little bit, but I have had them break off and it caused the color street to actually stay on my nail, but my nail tear off from underneath it. My thumbnail was being a little difficult here. Uh-oh. See, oh, it popped off. Uh-oh. You have to make sure it's glued on there really good, guys. My nails look really, really rough. Here I'm just making it a little more rough so it'll stick really good. And I do take a old makeup brush and make sure to get all that powder off my fingernails. That helps with keeping that powder off of there, so it'll stick a lot better. So here I'm just filing down the nail to make sure I get the ends of them really smooth, and to make sure that they are all even and everything. And then I'm buffing the top of the nail because I want to make sure that it is even and flat with my natural nail. So you don't want to keep it raised up, because it will cause your dip polish to be raised up and you'll have to file and it'll look like you have a big hump in your nail. So that's what I'm doing here. And this file, I'm not sure what the grit is. I think it's 180. I could be wrong. I got it at Sally's Beauty Supply. You want to feel and make sure that it feels like it's level with your natural nail. And then just dust all that powder off. I use the quick dip dipping powder. It tells you on the bottles which step to do first. So this was step 1, and this is to prime your nails, and that's to remove all of the oil off of your natural nail. You only want to put it on your natural nail. Do not put it on the fake nail, because it will cause it to be a weird texture. This is step number 2. This is the top coat and the glue, basically. So you just want to put it on top of your nail, and first what I'll do is just do it in the tip. Do it on the tip of the nail, and then after that dip it into the powder. What you want to do is kind of shake off your finger. I just tap it. If you pay attention, I tap it off. You want to get that extra powder off of there, and then paint right back over top of it with the top coat. You do want to put your brush immediately back into the bottle of the top coat, because if it does not, it will get really hard. It dries really quickly, so you'll want to make sure to do that. Now the second time that you dip it down in there, what you want to do is paint back to your cuticle. Do not paint it on your cuticle, because it'll put the dip powder on top of your cuticle and be hardened, and then whenever you are trying to file it off and stuff, it does hurt, and plus when your nail grows out, it'll cause it to be raised. If you pay attention closely, you'll see I just do the tip of the nail, and then I do the natural nail along with the tip of the nail. That also gives you a thin layer to make sure that it isn't really thick at your cuticle, because you don't want that. It gets caught on all kinds of other things like your hair or your clothes, stuff like that, so it puts that thin layer on there. So what you want to do is to make sure that you also make the tip of your nail really strong. So you'll want to have at least 2 layers on the tip of your nail, and if you do it the way that I have explained, you will have 2 layers on the tip of your nail. If you bump it into something, it will cause it to break, or it will cause it to rip your fingernail off, and that does hurt a lot. It can be a lengthy process, but once you get used to it, it will cause it to be a lot faster, because you do get a routine. I do this like once every week and a half to 2 weeks. Sometimes before then, if I get tired of my manicure and I want something different. So here it looks like I didn't file the nail down good enough. So what I'm having to do is make that fake tip even with my natural nail, because I failed to do that in the first step. So what I'm doing with this metal cuticle pusher, gosh, I cannot talk today, guys, is I'm just going along my cuticle to make sure I get the dip powder off of my cuticle if I got anything on there. That helps put like a little line on there to make sure that it is even, and it gives that little thin layer there. So what I'm doing here is filing my nail to make sure that there's no ridges, no bumps, no hard places, you know, like raised hard places or anything like that. And you want to make sure it's very smooth and even with your nail. You want to do each side, the tip of your nail, and on top of your nail. And don't worry, if you do file a lot of it off, you can just dip it right back down in the powder again. I swear it's super simple once you get used to it. Allow yourself at least an hour, I would say, to be able to have all of this done and to apply the color streak too, if that's what you use. You can also use different colored powders, but I prefer the clear powder that way, because if you put color streak on top of like a nude or a white, it will change the color of the color streak polish. I am a perfectionist, so I do take a while to file my nail down. The sad thing about it is, when I got to my second hand, because I just showed you all one hand in this video, when I got to my second hand, I did not take the time that I did with my first hand, so it looks a little different, and it has absolutely killed me. Here is step 3, which is the activator. So what you have to do is just put one coat on top of the dip powder, and that activates it into like a hard acrylic. You want to make sure to only get it on the nail. Do not get it on the sides of your fingers, because if you have any powder on the sides of your fingers, it will activate that and cause it to get hard. Usually the only way that you can take it off is if you file it off, and then eventually just comes off. It is some very, very strengthening stuff. I did get this kit at Sally's Beauty Supply. It is called the ASP Quick Dip Kit. And what this does is makes it much cheaper for you and for myself. I preferably do not like to go to a salon and spend $60, $70, $80 on a manicure. It's going to last just like, 2 or 3 weeks, if that. So I'm dusting my hands off, because that powder, the dip powder, does get everywhere. So you want to just make sure you get all that off before applying the color streak. And you can file on top of the clear. This is a glass nail file. I do prefer that over a regular nail file, because it makes it much more smoother. You want to feel and make sure that it is smooth on top and it doesn't have any ridges or anything like that. The first set that I use is Napa Gappa. This is a purple set, and in the color streak set you get 16 strips of polish. You get a alcohol prep pad and a nail file. I usually don't use the nail files that is in the color streak kit, because I prefer the ones that I have. So if you have not used color streak before, what you do is first pull off the clear piece on top of your set, and then you have the polish. Then the gray part there, you pull it up, and that will pull up your polish. You want to align it with your nail, and then just put it on there and press it down. I'm using a rubber cuticle pusher here, because the solids are a lot harder to use. What this cuticle pusher does is it pushes all of the wrinkles out, all of the imperfections that you have, and it also gets it down beside of your fingernail, like on the sides where I'm using dip powder. My nail is thick. This keeps it from being really wrinkled and, looking terrible. So that just smooths it out really well. And then you just want to bend it over your nail, and voila, there it is. If I wasn't using the dip powder and I was using my natural nail, I would save the second half of it and put it on the opposite nail of my opposite hand. But because my nails are preferably long, there are not enough excess on there to be able to save it for the next nail. You just want to push it down on there, make sure that it's on there really good, and all of your wrinkles are out. The glitters are much easier to apply, and the glitters doesn't show your flaws as much as what a solid color does. If you all hear Liam screaming, I'm sorry. He's screaming out the door and looking out the door because he's waiting for his dad to come home. It's almost that time, so I guess he knows. Also, if you have never applied Color Street, you always want to do your thumbnail last. So if you are using your natural nail and you don't have a cuticle pusher to tear it, or if you're using one strip for two nails, like one on each hand, you want to do your thumbnail last because you use your thumbnail to tear the strip away from around the sides of your fingers and over your cuticle and all that. It is much, much more easier to do it that way. So start with your pinky. I'm having a hard time here. Sometimes it sticks really good once it gets onto your skin and it does not want to come off. So there's the Napa Gappa. I'm using Tiny and Shiny, which is from the Petite collection. This is a clear glitter. So I'm going to use it over every nail but two. But later I added them to 4 nails and only kept one of them without the glitter on there. The Petites are smaller than the regular set, so you want to make sure that they do fit your nails. And also, if you're doubling Color Street, you do not want to line them up perfectly at your cuticle, because if you do so, that is actually 6 layers of polish. So what that does is leave a thick layer on there, and it can catch your hair or whatever and cause it to raise. So you want to make sure you push it down there really well. My child is really screaming. This, see, I applied a second layer onto my ring finger, actually, my middle finger, sorry, because I was not going to put Tiny and Shiny on top of it. I was just going to leave it solid. So I love doubling up my Color Street because it helps it last longer, and because I like the thickness of that. So I added another Napa Gappa on top of that one. So this is Between the Lines. This is my all-time favorite set. I put it over top of everything, so I love it. So I'm putting that on my ring finger and keeping it that way, but like I said, later I added Tiny and Shiny onto my middle finger. So with Color Street, you do get a base coat, a middle coat, and a top coat all in one strip. And there's my mani, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below and let me know how you liked it. Thanks.